The experience of going through an IPO, if no one's done it, it's an incredible experience to go through and understand how do you appeal to investors, how you're managing the press, how you're getting ready for key messages, how you're preparing to go IPO, because once you IPO, it's all transparent. And so it's all about like growth and consistency and performance and getting the word out there about our company. So that was my first 2 weeks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CMOs Unscripted. I'm your host, Lisa Martin. This is season 2. And as you know, because you've been with us on this journey, this show, it's all about relationships. This is about how our CMO community is really skipping buzzwords, talking about what's actually going on in marketing, what's changing. I can't wait for you to meet my next guest. I am beyond thrilled to welcome Jean English, the CMO of CoreWeave, and might I add, the company's first CMO to the podcast. And as you're going to learn throughout this conversation, Jean, she's a very data-driven leader, which I love, really, really strong financial and business acumen. She's known for trying to really tying marketing directly to measurable business outcomes, which I know you care about. In fact, I can't wait for you to hear about her accomplishments in just her first 90 days alone at CoreWeave. A couple teasers. Both Formula One and Chance the Rapper will both strategically appear in parts of this conversation. Gina, it's so great to have you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I'd love to understand, I know the concept of building a plane while flying it at the same time. What drew you to CoreWeave right before its IPO last year and the opportunity that you saw to not only be its first CMO, but to really help it create a category?
Yeah. So at the time when I joined, I didn't know we were going to IPO. I was intrigued by this cloud that was purpose built for AI. I have been at the intersection of cloud and AI now for the past decade. And for me, it was an opportunity to come in somewhere at the ground level and really build a team and build a company and watch the trajectory grow.
What's it like from a momentum perspective to step into a pre-IPO company as the first marketing leader? I imagine exciting, like I said, building the plane and flying it at the same time.
Yeah, so I finalized my contract. I got a call from one of the co-founders, and he said, "We have a 28-day challenge. We're going to IPO." So that's when I found out. It was right before I joined, and I was like, "Okay, this is not a problem." I was like, "We can figure this out." And we needed to be able to get the solidification of our message around AI cloud. We wanted to put a campaign into market because we knew by the time of the IPO, we wanted to show up big at NVIDIA's conference, and then the IPO was going to be the next week, and then you have to go dark for a couple of weeks. So it's like, get something out big and bold in the message. And at the time, there weren't brand guidelines. So we took a picture of a wall and we sent it to the agency and we said, create the graphics and imagery. I went through and was reviewing the IPO roadshow script and looking at what was our message and what was the key points we wanted to make. And with that, we started to solidify what messages would then come through in customer stories. Sam Altman had just been a part of the roadshow, so we actually captured that video. We then captured the script, we wrote a campaign, and then onwards we went. We went big and bold at GTC at the conference. And then we got ready for Times Square and to go big and bold across New York City and across the Bay Area. And that was within the first 2 weeks. And then there was the IPO, which was amazing and incredible. And the experience of going through an IPO, if no one's done it, it's an incredible experience to go through and understand how do you appeal to investors, how you're managing the press, how you're getting ready for key messages, how you're preparing to go IPO, because once you IPO, it's all transparent. And so it's all about growth and consistency and performance and getting the word out there about our company. So that was my first 2 weeks. And then it was we bought a company called Weights and Biases, and we need to make this a part of the CoreWeave platform. And we want to go do F1. So how did we sign that contract with Aston Martin? How do we have the right personas, and do we have key messages and audiences to actually start to create demand? We did not. So we went through and analyzed all the customer records and started building out personas. Then we came out and we became number one in semi-analysis, which is an evaluation of AI clouds. We were the only platinum rating, number one, declared number one AI cloud. So that was just a little bit into the first 6 weeks on the job.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. Huge challenge, but also massive opportunity to really mold a brand, as you talked about all those elements. How did you, from a cultural perspective, come in within 28 days, accomplish so much from a GTM engine perspective? How did that happen culturally? Because that's a big challenge, but I imagine the team was probably really chomping at the bit to go.
This company, there is nothing that holds them back. And so the humility and humbleness of the founders and the culture and the audacity to go big and bold and go fast is part of the culture. The pace of this place is like no other. The speed at which we work is fast. The quality is high. The focus on customer and performance is right in line with the pace itself. And I think that's what makes this company special. When I joined, the marketing team was a team of 12. And so if you think about like a company going public with a team of 12, and they were also ready to do like new things and be creative and go big and bold. And that's my mantra. And so when I jumped in, the culture was embracing. Everyone was like, let's go do it. Supportive. Let's make it happen. So it was very exciting.
Sounds like the right culture, the right momentum, the right team, small but mighty. How did you talked about transparency, like once you IPO, everything is transparent, dramatically different. How did marketing, that small, mighty, bold team, support that first earnings call? What was that like when everything is laid out in the open?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's really understanding what is the perception and sentiment in the market. And, there's a lot of education that has to happen around what is our offering, what is our product, what is our platform, what is our business model, what are the financial models, and what is our operating model. And so the education, those first couple weeks, and just making sure, because you're not doing broad marketing in that time. Like if you're not already in market, you can't introduce something new. So You're managing and educating press, financial analysts, investors. And so a lot of that preparation is happening. And then it's about like, how do we make sure that we're starting to publish, content that gets people learning again about the platform and why an AI cloud is even important. Why is it different? We weren't trying to compete with other clouds. Creating a new category is creating something from first principles, is something that you're creating based on the need that's happening in the market. And so that first, couple of weeks after the IPO, ramping up to get ready for earnings was all about education and level setting and resetting and making sure people understood who we were.
That sounds like a really brilliant strategic move that you took there. I love, you mentioned customers. I'm a huge fan. I've been doing customer stories for a long, long time now with my agency. And I think there's nothing more validating than the voice of a customer. How are CoreWeave's customers really, how are they instrumental in the IPO and the earnings call to really substantiate this category that they're helping you to create?
Yeah. So the big thing is that, so when we got the IPO roadshow and all that was prepared, the amazing thing is that the customer who was in the roadshow was Sam Altman from OpenAI.
Oh my gosh. How can you ask for more? Amazing.
You have to ask for like the best customer reference in the world. There
OpenAI.
It was. Yeah. And that was an opportunity to really hear from him, why did he love CoreWeave? And I think that the performance of the platform, the ability of the great partnership that we have, the pace in which, we move together, this industry does not move slow. It moves fast. And so the requirement of like what's happening in AI, what's happening in AI models, what's the need to be able to train these models, infer and build applications and using AI, and all of it is happening so rapidly that, partnering with someone like OpenAI was an incredible opportunity to hear based on what they needed, how we're able to deliver, and the performance that they were able to drive into the market. And that was just the beginning. We did a customer advisory board. It was the first one we'd ever had. And so we did that just a couple months later. And we got to hear from multiple clients that we work with just about, again, the partnership of what we do together is what's so critically important.
That collaboration is essential. We don't do, you were talking about when you're creating a category, you're not competing with the others because you're creating something new based on market need. But you talked about speed for a minute, and we talk about that in this podcast every other week because the market, as you said, technology, the pace is not going to slow down. Nobody wants less data, slower. We all want more faster, but there's pressure on brands. And so when I think of speed, you can't not think of Formula One. I'm a huge fan. I have been involved in it for many, many years. But my nephew's favorite team is Aston Martin. He's always got an Aston Martin hat on every time I see him. Fernando Alonso is his favorite driver. But when we talk about speed, one of the things that's so cool about F1 is so strategic. It's so technical. There's so much data. What was important from CoreWeave's brand perspective right after the IPO, creating this category to partner with a brand like Aston Martin, where speed, precision is paramount.
Yeah. So I have loved F1 for a long time. I've been a big fan, like basically a decade ago.
Yeah.
And what I love about the sport is the performance and the data-driven metrics that actually like drive these cars and drive the improvements and enhancements that they need to make every single day and every single week, and really every single second of a race. When we started to evaluate, who we wanted to work with, I think our values were just so in line with Aston Martin, and the focus on like quality, the focus on speed and performance. They were bringing in a lot of new talent. They had not yet brought in Adrian Newey. They were developing their wind tunnel. They were bringing in, really more perspectives of how they use new technologies. They were curious and interested in moving to a cloud and an AI cloud. How did they use AI more in automation, analytics, understanding tires to race side, and all of that. And so we were like, we're so in line with our principles that, it really was the partnership of working together. And I think with any type of sponsorship you do, it's really a partnership, and it has to be based on like how they're using technology. And so I never do partnerships where, it's purely just a brand and being able to enjoy the hospitality. It has to be based on what we do together to really drive performance.
And business impact. So you talked about a lot of strong alignment there. I think I know Adrian Newey, not know him, I wish, but from, I think I want to say McLaren days, because I think I've been involved in F1 since 2012. Yeah. And so, but how does that alignment, you talked about the word partnership, which is absolutely fundamental. How does this partnership really, what does it say about CoreWeave's brand and your perspective?
Yeah, I think the notion of quality and partnership and performance is what we're about. We really built the company based on first principles. We built a cloud just for AI. And when we think about the alignment that we have with Aston Martin and that partnership there, we're aligned on using different types of technology and tools to deliver better performance. And that means that every single day is, coming in and looking at the data in a different way. It's being able to think about how you use AI to be able to enhance, the ability to drive a different outcome. And for us in Aston Martin, it wasn't just about, again, they may be even using technology. It was about us working side by side with them. Like, how do we actually even have our technicians talking with theirs? What do we do in terms of looking at the analytics? How do we think about looking at data models? And so having that type of alignment was so important and critical for us, because we knew, like you said, it was going to drive business line and impact. And then when we had the chance for them to come in and actually create the wind tunnel, we actually renamed it. We said, well, everybody has a wind tunnel. Well, most teams have a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
So why don't we call it the air tunnel, the AI research tunnel? And
I love it.
So putting a bit of a spin on it. But this is Adrian's toy box. This is his sandbox. This is where he can go in. This is where he can use AI, and the team can use AI and the analytics to be able to drive and understand the wind and understand the performance of the car. And so being able to not only just, have the name and the brand associated with it, but being able to really be able to have an impact on something so new for the team was critically important and a lot of fun.
Oh, so much fun. I've been to F1 hospitality. It's outstanding. We mentioned the word partnership, really the strategic partnership there. How have you seen in the first season the partnership really support credibility and growth as you're growing the brand? We're going to talk about the first brand campaign, but from a growth perspective, how, and I'll use a pun, how has that been an engine for CoreWeave?
Well, the first thing that, we did, we went out strong at the IPO. We did the Aston Martin partnership, was amazing. We had never even had an event before. So we held our first event to be able to showcase and just, again, education on what is an AI cloud and who is CoreWeave and what do we believe in and what values do we stand for. And then we had to understand more about who are our customers and then how do we help serve them. The CAB and the Customer Advisory Board is just one of those examples, but getting deeper into personas. We actually started to set up the growth engine and being able to get the demand engine up and running. And so it wasn't just about like a big brand advertising campaign. It was really what needs do we need to address when companies like AI natives who we see that are pioneers and they are pioneering to inventing AI, how do we help them succeed? And then enterprises who were looking to really advance with AI, what do they need to succeed? And so we really had to start honing in on what are those pain points and how do we address those? And so whether it was performance, if it was reliability, scalability, what does it mean to have inference and training?
Yeah.
And having the benchmarks behind them so they understood like exactly what is the difference of working with an AI cloud versus working with a cloud provider who has been brought up and built to be more general purpose and to serve more web applications, but like the difference of an AI cloud and what that will help them to deliver. And so getting all that set up and then starting to define who we are, which was an essential cloud for AI, was a lot of the work. So a lot of listening, a lot of customer interviews, a lot of like talking with partners and NVIDIA and making sure that we understood what was the place we had in this market and why we were so different. And so getting that narrative and that storyline became the foundation of then how we thought about going into doing a brand campaign, but really making sure that every single thing that we did, whether it was press, whether it was, how we get our executive voices out to our campaigns, to our content, thinking about our website and how we get more people understanding and learning, to the content we developed, yes, to the events and partnerships that we have, but all that is an engine. And you know me, you said data-driven, data-driven, but setting all that up in the very beginning, I think gave us credibility in the market, but also gave us credibility inside the company. As the first CMO, people don't always know what to expect. It's like, well, what does marketing do and how do we help deliver? And if we're adding, and growing perception in the market, what does it mean to deliver that for the company?
That impact is outstanding. I've been talking about CoreWeave on Schwab Network since last summer of 2025. Going, guys, this is a company to watch. I talked again a few months ago about the NVIDIA partnership, what you guys recently announced. The foundation that you're building is so strong. So now this ready for anything, ready for AI, the first brand campaign you did so much in your first 90 days alone. You alluded to some of that. And guys, check out Jean's LinkedIn profile to read more about that in detail. But how did you get to being able to launch, not only being the first CMO, launching an Aston Martin partnership, very symbiotic partnership, but now launching the first brand campaign with a small team with somebody like Chance the Rapper? How did that come about so quickly?
Yeah, so we've been ramping up the team for sure. And we've been adding just tremendous talent from brand to communications to product marketing to partnerships and events, analytics, field marketing, demand gen. So across the board, we have been building out the team. And when we wanted to do something big, my mantra, be bold. And
I love that. Yes.
So, how do you go bold? And a lot of it was like, there's so much around, is AI real? Is AI, there was this AI bubble or, is it that people are getting the ROI from AI? And we're seeing that there's so many industries and companies and that are definitely using AI for impact. And we wanted to start to break down some of the thinking of, well, what are people actually using AI for? And they're using it for anything. And so like that became part of the premise. And so we wanted to break down the thoughts and the silos of like, what is AI actually starting to do and help, in our everyday lives. And we thought it was fun to think about ready for anything, ready for AI, and the AI being a part of the word. And then we said, and why don't we do something that's not just about the tech speeds and feeds, which I think are very important. Like, if you've ever heard me talk before, sizzle and steak, like, we can do the sizzle like a brand campaign, but it always has to land in the steak, which is like a real product with tremendous benefits and outcomes, high performance. And that's the best of both worlds, which is why I love CoreWeave.
Yeah.
But this campaign, we said, why don't we do something that's also more of a cultural moment? And can we do something for someone who is thinking about things in transformation and change? And we felt like Chance was a great representation of that. So when we approached him, he was excited to think through what we could do together. We actually went to LA. And
I saw the back behind the scenes on YouTube. You in it too.
We were all in LA and, we were working with him and his team. And, it just was like a really beautiful job in pulling together the story and to then open up the aperture of what you can do with AI. And then for us, it was about, yes, landing it in like this great brand campaign. But on the same week, we actually launched what we call the Arena. And the Arena was an opportunity to go in and actually is like to start to take your models and test them out and see how they really performed. And if there were any bottlenecks or hurdles models and what they needed to do to get through those, and that they could see that working with CoreWeave, the infrastructure, highly performant. So they don't have to worry about that. They can just focus on the models. But yeah, so we just launched Arena at the same week as we launched our brand campaign, which is great.
I love how you talk about AI. It's used in everything and anything. I do iHeartRadio segments twice a week, and there I get to talk with a consumer audience, only 3 minutes at a time. But I always felt, I've been in marketing and tech for almost 20 years, and I always feel a sense of obligation to help consumers understand more of the AI narrative that's good, because there's so much out there that is negative. And I think when I saw what you guys were doing and just launched with Chance, I thought that's really helping to humanize it, to share with people. There's so many wonderful applications of it in a noisy AI market where like I said, there's so much negativity. How do you think that this is helping to differentiate and elevate that AI for good message? I know it's much more than that, but I think that's an important message to kind of elevate.
I think it's a good message to elevate. And I do think that there can be a lot of things that are good for AI. And I think that by demonstrating and highlighting these different use cases in different industries, it gives people a chance to open up and to try to learn more about it and how they can do their own research, And it's not just what they are fed through the news or fed through, maybe one media channel, but, go research and see what other companies are doing. And we're going to be highlighting more of the stories so that we can be able to demonstrate all the customer success that we're seeing. So we're excited about that part of it. I think that I've always been super focused on the humanization of infrastructure. And, infrastructure, I've been in infrastructure almost my entire career. I've been in SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, think about cloud early on, using more machine learning, more analytics, moving more into AI. And, and if it's the things that people don't always see, whether it's the compute, the storage, security, networking. But those are all the components that actually bring all these applications to life.
Right.
And so the constant thinking about like, how do you humanize something that people don't see, but is such a big part of what we experience on a day-to-day basis, is something that's always a great opportunity to highlight.
I love that. It's foundational. I was just on iHeart this week talking about AI data centers, or why they're so different than traditional cloud data centers. That foundation, that infrastructure that you talked about, humanizing it, talking about that from a jobs perspective, because people don't understand what's necessary to power it. Why is there such a race? Why are companies like OpenAI, Meta, Google, Amazon investing billions, if not trillions in that? So I love your objective of humanizing the infrastructure, because it's what powers everything, and so many things that are around us every day that we just take for granted.
If you've never been in a data center, check it out.
Sorry?
If you've never been in a data center, go check it out for sure. It's quite fascinating. Yeah.
I think these school trips to some of those AI data centers, that would be a very cool field trip. I would go myself. So you've done a phenomenal job in your career, and I've known you since NetApp days, long time ago. And what you've done at CoreWeave is so impressive. I think this is going to be so inspiring to not just CMOs, aspiring CMOs who are in our audience. But something else that you're really big on that I love, because this is really me too, is community and leadership. Guys, Jean is the founding chair of Bay Area CMO. You talked about your mantra, Jean. I love this: be bold, be kind. Talk about what you're doing, the momentum that you have at CoreWeave, and why the community power matters so much at the CMO level.
Yeah, I think for CMOs, the answer is typically in the room. The ability to connect with peers and have an opportunity. I think, whether it's in tech or across different industries, I think my community is everything, from like my friends that I grew up with from high school to, my colleagues I've had at different companies, and now like having a community of CMOs that can come together and just be able to talk through problems, challenges, opportunities. These communities are where, you actually start to get like real insights, and you feel the support. It can feel lonely, by yourself, as a CMO, any C-suite member, like you're the ultimate decision maker. And so like, how do you have, peers to lean on and to get advice from is always, I think, something I've leaned in heavily for the past 20 years. And when I had the opportunity to be the founding chair and to actually build a chapter in the Bay Area, I took it. I said, I'm in, I'm ready to tackle it. And we have over 20 CMOs who've now joined our community. And they're people that I've known for years and some people that I haven't known that are new. And I'm already enjoying the community so much. We just held our Orby Awards, was so happy to chair the award reception.
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, to congratulate the award winners. Many I nominated myself to be a part of it. But yeah, it was a great opportunity.
And many of your chapter members have been on the show. Mandy Dhaliwal, Laura Heisman, Denise Pearson, Monica is one of our targets. So it was so fun when I was looking through them. Like, I know her. A lot of female power, which is fantastic. But what do you think? And the community, I think, is so important. As you said, it can be lonely in that leadership position, but we can all learn from each other across industries. What do you think today, in this 2026, this AI era of where everything is moving so fast, it's not going to slow down? What do you think a CMO's superpower is today?
Authenticity.
Oh,
I think that every CMO brings unique traits. They bring a unique perspective. They bring unique experiences. And, I'm not trying to be like somebody else. I'm just trying to be me. And, what I bring and deliver to a company is typically something that other people, don't. And they bring their own traits and how they were chosen to be for those roles is because it was a great match with where that company is. And so, my mantra is be bold, be kind, and always delivering high value business impact. And when people work with me, they usually know if I'm not pulling you back, we're not going far enough. And so it's like always be bold. I think that companies who want like big transformations, they want to make bold moves. I'm the person they call. And I enjoy that. I think something that I've learned over the years is that is so many ways to solve a problem. There's so many ways to get to answers, and I definitely don't know them all, which is why I always hire the best teams. And when I build the best team, everyone's bringing their unique perspectives or bringing their own experiences. And if we open up the room to be able to have the space to listen and understand different ways to solve challenges, that's where respect and kindness comes in, because we just select the way and we test a couple ways to get there. But high respect, high boldness, high audacity, and always high performance.
I love how you talked about the superpower in one word, authenticity. I think that is it's a catalyst for so many things. I've embraced that myself with what I do. I think people respect it even more. I've been in media for a long time, and you hear a lot of people pontificate, and you can tell when they're not really being authentic, but that authenticity it opens up the door to credibility, responsibility, leadership, so many things. So thank you for sharing that. That truthfully, I think, is such an important message for the audience to hear. Last few questions are fun. They're kind of rapid fire.
Okay.
You've done so many great things. I can't even imagine what the last year has been like for you. It must have been just challenging, scary, exciting, electric. What was harder, the IPO or brand launch?
Oh gosh, IPO.
Why?
I hadn't done it before. It was my first time going through an IPO. And I didn't know we were going to IPO. Of course, there's always the rumors and you see the news and stories. And but I don't pay attention to that. I just pay attention to, is it a great product? Is it great leadership? Is it a great culture? Am I a great fit? And so when all those things check the boxes and I was ready to make the move, CoreWeave was the place for me. The going to IPO was the cherry on top. And, when I found that out, I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. This is going to be so fun. But jumping in like with 28 days was tight. And I think that, managing, understanding like the story, understanding the IPO roadshow, understanding like what is our message, how are we preparing for the IPO itself, how are we preparing and being able to address press, investors, all that was new. And then the IPO is day one. And so the ability then to like really get super focused on performance and outcomes for clients as well as the street was something I had not experienced before. So IPO for me was, I would say that was harder. And just more challenging or more fun. I mean, for me, just because I had it before. Yeah.
What gave you the confidence, like personally, to be able to go, I can do this?
Oh, guys, I think it just goes back to being bold.
I would agree. Yeah.
I think it's just me personally. I think I would take on any challenge head on. And I just always see it as opportunity to learn. But I love a good brand launch too. Like it's always fun to get the brand out there. And I think that, in combination of IPO, it's being able to clearly articulate the brand perception, having people understand what we do, who we are.
Yes.
It is not a day. It is not a launch. It is a journey. And the ability to be clear about that message, be clear about, we had never had a product launch really before. So now we have product launches and releases every 2 weeks. And so even preparing with the amount of innovation that we're getting out into the market, and that's across the full stack, whether it's, what we do from tools to help developers and researchers, to how we think about what's new and things like object storage and how they think about their data. Security is always top of mind. How we come out with like the latest GPUs and chips. But like that preparation and rigor is fun. The brand is fun. But the perception of how we have to change in the market is what I think is ultimately, what we're trying to achieve.
What do you think if you could distill everything down to like one leadership lesson? You walked in to a massively bold opportunity. You said, I can do this. Massive achievements in the first 90 days. What, as a CMO, longtime CMO, what's that one nugget that you think so far in the first 90 days, it was this?
For me, it was like no challenge is too hard. It was like really rolling up the sleeves. Like, I've led teams of multiples of hundreds. And coming into a team of 12, I think it was the opportunity to like dig in so deep. And it's a collective of all the experiences. Some of those are data, some of those are intuitive. Some of those are just like, go for it, just don't stop. But I think for me, every week I wanted to achieve something, and I wanted our team to achieve something and learn something new. And I was learning new and they were learning new, and we were showing what marketing and communications could do for the company. And so those first 90 days for me was just like, never say no. And like, it's just like always go, and just every single step, learn. Mistakes will be made, learn from it, pivot, move on, and like just keep challenging myself and the team and all of us. So it's been fun. I've loved it.
So inspiring. I can tell. And I always say failure is not a bad F word. It can be foundational. Last question for you. Be bold and be kind is your mantra. What does that mean now in the boardroom of a public company?
Yeah. I mean, but be bold is every day, the decisions that we make. Can we be bolder with the claims we make? Can we be bolder with how we're engaging clients? Can we be bolder with our messaging? Can we be bolder in how we think about timelines and getting out to market? But be kind is like, we need to understand, when we need to step back, when we need to assess, when we need to say, oh, did that work or not work? Do we need to open up, listen to other opinions? For our clients, it's about, are we meeting them where they are, and how do we help them every single day to achieve the outcomes that they need to achieve? And, when you're working at the pace and the speed we are, the thing I heard from them is that partnership. Time and time again is so critically important. So I think that, be bold, be kind comes in the face of my peers. It comes in the face of the team. It comes in the face of our partnerships we have, and more so really with the clients that we serve.
This has just been such a killer conversation. I knew it would be when I was working on doing my research. Thank you for sharing. I mean, we just touched on the surface. I know we could have many more conversations, but the IPO, your first earnings with CoreWeave, the first brand campaign, big partnerships. What I loved about what you shared, Jean, many things, is that marketing, when tied to the business, becomes a growth engine, not a support function. So thank you for sharing that, for bringing your boldness, your candor, your authenticity, and the clarity. We so appreciate all the insights you shared. I know the audience is going to eat this up.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to see you again.
Likewise. And to everyone listening and watching, this is CMOs Unscripted, where we skip the buzzwords, we skip all that stuff. We talk about what's actually changing in marketing. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Next one in 2 weeks. For my guest, Jean English, CMO of CoreWeave, I'm Lisa Martin, your host, and we'll see you on the next podcast.